The afternoon sunlight poured through the kitchen window, casting warm shadows on the walls. I stood there, preparing another mundane meal, when the familiar sound of my phone vibrating broke the silence. I glanced at the screen and saw a message notification from Elias. My heart skipped a beat. He was always busy, often lost in his own world. But this time, it felt different. Curiosity gnawed at me as I picked up the phone. I opened the message, and there it was, a string of words that turned my world upside down. "I can't wait to see you again, Marisol. You make me feel alive." Each letter felt like a dagger, slicing through my heart. I blinked, hoping it was just a cruel joke, but the truth hit me like a freight train. "Elias," I whispered, my breath hitching in my throat. I felt as if the ground had shifted beneath my feet. How could he? I had trusted him, loved him. I thought we shared everything. Rage bubbled within me, mixing with disbelief. I had to sit down, the kitchen chair cold against my skin. For the first time, I felt the weight of betrayal, heavy and suffocating. I looked around the kitchen, the laughter we shared echoing in my mind. Was it all a lie? The memories twisted into something sinister, and I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to scream. I couldn't remain a victim. A fierce determination began to ignite in me, pushing away the pain. "Enough," I muttered under my breath, staring at the phone in my hand. I wouldn't let him have the last word. This was not just about him. It was about me, my dignity, my self-respect. I needed to know more about this woman, Marisol. Who was she? What did she have that I didn't? As I set the phone down, a plan began to form in my mind. I would learn everything I could about her. The thought of revenge felt intoxicating, a rush of power surging through me. I could be the one in control, not just a passive bystander in my own life. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of clarity wash over me. "I'll show them," I said aloud, my voice steady. The resolve within me grew stronger. Marisol would not remain a shadow in my life. I would expose her, and Elias too. They both needed to understand the consequences of their actions. I grabbed a notebook from the kitchen counter, my fingers trembling with excitement as I wrote down Marisol's name. I needed to dig deeper. Who was she to Elias? A colleague? A friend? Or something more? The questions spun around in my mind, each one fueling my resolve. "Leora, stay calm," I told myself, wanting to keep my emotions in check. I couldn't afford to rush into this blindly. Patience was key. I needed a plan, and I needed to be smart. As I jotted down my thoughts, I recalled snippets of conversations I had overheard at family gatherings, names and whispers blending together. Elias mentioned a project with Marisol, I thought. What project? Why hadn't I paid attention before? I realized I had become complacent. No more. I needed to establish a network, people who could help me keep an eye on both Elias and Marisol. I felt a thrill at the prospect of gathering intel. The game was on, and I was ready to play. With newfound determination, I smiled to myself. I will uncover the truth, I vowed, feeling empowered. I had a mission, a purpose. The pain of betrayal was still fresh, but it had transformed into something fierce. I would not allow myself to be broken. Instead, I would rise from the ashes, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And as the sun dipped lower in the sky, I felt a strange sense of excitement. The world was about to see a different side of Leora. A woman scorned, yes, but one who would no longer accept defeat. The intricate game of revenge had just begun. I stood in the shadows, my heart pounding as I watched Elias from a distance. He leaned casually against the railing of the park, laughing easily with Marisol. The sight of them together twisted my stomach in knots. I felt rage bubbling up inside me, mixed with heartbreak. How could he be so carefree, knowing the pain he had caused me? Look at him, I whispered to myself, feeling the tears prick at my eyes. How could he betray me like this? I had thought I could handle it all. I had thought I would be strong, but seeing them together made me feel small and powerless. I clenched my fists, reminding myself that I was here for a reason. I had to outsmart both of them to take control of this situation. As I watched, I noticed Marisol's charm. She smirked as she tossed her hair over her shoulder, pretending to be engrossed in whatever Elias was saying. My mind raced. This was not just a simple affair. Marisol was ambitious and manipulative. She wouldn't just walk away from Elias. I needed to gather more information about her. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "I can do this," I murmured, convincing myself that I was not just a victim anymore. I was determined to learn everything I could about Marisol and her motives. I had to turn this situation around. After a while, I decided to follow them discreetly. They strolled through the park, laughing and sharing stories. With each step, my heart sank deeper. I wanted to confront them, to scream at Elias and demand answers, but I knew that wasn't the way to play this game. I had to be smarter than that. Suddenly, Marisol leaned in closer to Elias, her voice low and flirtatious. I strained to hear her words. "You know, I really enjoy spending time with you. There's something special about our connection." My breath caught in my throat. "Connection?" I spat out the word like poison. I could not believe my ears. Did she really think she had something real with him? Elias chuckled, his eyes sparkling with delight. "Yeah, I feel it too. It's nice to be with someone who understands me." I felt a fire ignite inside me. "Understand you? You've betrayed your wife," I wanted to shout, but I stayed silent. I needed to keep my emotions in check. After a few more minutes of watching their flirtation, I decided it was time to gather intel. I needed a plan. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. I started taking pictures of them, documenting every moment. This was my evidence. Later that night, sitting on my bed with the lights dimmed, I began piecing everything together. The photos showed not just their smiles, but the connection they shared. I couldn't allow myself to be blindsided anymore. I needed allies, a network of contacts who could help me keep an eye on both of them. I thought of my friend Mia. She was always sharp and had a knack for finding out information. I texted her, my fingers trembling slightly. "Mia, can we meet? I need your help with something important." A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Sure? What's going on?" I took a deep breath. "I'll explain everything when I see you. Are you free tomorrow?" "Absolutely. Let's meet at the cafe." I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I could trust Mia. She would help me gather the information I needed. I spent the rest of the night outlining my plan. I would learn everything about Marisol and Elias, and I would not stop until I had the upper hand. As I lay in bed, I thought about the game I was now a part of. It was no longer just about revenge, it was about strategy. I had to be smart, observant, and patient. I smiled to myself, feeling a sense of power returning. This was only the beginning. I would find a way to turn the tables on them both. As I sat alone in my living room, the weight of my thoughts felt like a heavy blanket pressing down on me. I stared at the wall, lost in a sea of confusion and anger. My plan for revenge against Elias and Marisol was growing stronger, yet I could not shake off the nagging feeling of doubt. Was I really willing to go as far as I was thinking? What would it say about me if I hurt them the way they had hurt me? I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing mind. Flashbacks of my past flooded in. I was strong once, ambitious and full of dreams. I remembered the days when I was not just a shadow of my former self, but a woman who knew what she wanted. I had goals, aspirations, and a future I envisioned for myself. But now, the betrayal had shattered that vision. "Leora, you are better than this," I whispered to myself. "You should not let them win." But the anger inside me was fierce. Every time I thought about Elias's laughter with Marisol, my heart burned with a mix of fury and sadness. I wanted to make them pay, but at what cost? I opened my eyes and stared at the framed pictures of happier times on my wall. The smiles felt like ghosts, haunting reminders of what I had lost. I reached for my phone, scrolling through the information I had gathered about Marisol. She was clever, ambitious, and seemed to have a way of getting what she wanted. I found myself drawn to her story, even as I plotted my revenge. Did that make me weak? Or did it show that I was simply human? "Why does it matter?" I muttered, feeling frustrated. "She is the enemy." But with each new piece of information, the lines between vengeance and justice began to blur. Was I seeking revenge for my own sake, or was I trying to right a wrong? In my heart, I knew that revenge would not bring me peace. I took a deep breath, trying to center myself. "Leora, you need to think this through," I told myself. "What do you really want?" The answer was not simple. I wanted to feel whole again. I wanted to take back control of my life, and if that meant playing this game, then so be it. Yet, every time I thought about Marisol, I felt a flicker of empathy. She too was a woman fighting for her place in the world, even if it meant stepping on others. "Maybe she feels lost too," I said softly, almost as if I was trying to convince myself. The more I learned about Marisol, the more I understood that she wasn't just a villain in my story. She was a complex person with her own struggles. The thought unsettled me. How could I hate someone who might be dealing with her own pain? I picked up my phone again, scrolling through messages I had saved. This was my world now, a world filled with secrets and shadows. "What am I doing?" I thought, staring at the screen. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a message from one of my contacts. "I saw Elias again today. He was with her," it read. My heart raced. The familiar rush of anger surged within me. "Damn him!" I shouted, startling myself. How could he do this? But as the adrenaline faded, I felt that familiar doubt creeping in once more. I wanted to confront them, to expose their lies. But did I want to destroy them? Or did I want to find a way to reclaim my life? In that moment, I realized I needed to find a balance. I wanted to feel strong again, but not at the expense of becoming someone I didn't recognize. I needed to keep my integrity intact, even as I plotted my next move. As I sat there, the darkness of my plans loomed over me, yet I began to feel a sense of pride in my newfound agency. I was no longer a victim. I was a woman with a plan. But I had to tread carefully. This game was not only about revenge, it was about rediscovering who I was meant to be. With determination bubbling inside me, I made a silent vow. I would play this game with my head held high. I would not let the darkness consume me. I would find a way to emerge stronger, wiser, and ultimately, free. I took a deep breath as I set the trap for Elias. My heart raced, a mix of excitement and dread swirling inside me. I had spent weeks planning this moment, carefully gathering evidence of his betrayal. Now, the time had come to confront him. I wanted him to feel the weight of his actions, to see the hurt he had caused me. But I also felt a strange sense of unease. What if this confrontation changed everything? I waited in the dim light of our living room, the clock ticking loudly in the silence. I had placed a small hidden camera in a corner, capturing everything that would unfold. The door creaked open, and I heard Elias's familiar footsteps. "Leora, I'm home," he called, his voice carefree. I took another deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. I stepped out from the shadows, my heart pounding. "We need to talk, Elias," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked up, surprise flashing across his face. "What's wrong?" I could see the confusion in his eyes, but I pressed on. "I know about Marisol," I said firmly. Elias's face paled, and for a moment I thought he might deny it. But then, the truth settled in like a heavy fog. "Leora, Save it," I interrupted, my anger bubbling to the surface. "You don't get to explain. You don't get to make excuses for what you've done." "I didn't mean for it to happen," he said, his voice shaky. "It just happened. I was confused. Confused?" I scoffed, feeling the heat rise in my chest. "You call betraying your wife confusion? You think that's an excuse?" He opened his mouth to respond, but I could see the panic rising in him. I continued, "You think this is just about you? You think I'm the only one hurt here?" I could feel the tears welling up, but I refused to let them fall. I wanted him to see my strength, to understand the pain he had caused. "You've hurt me, Elias. You've shattered everything we built together." I noticed the way his eyes darted around, searching for a way out. "Leora, please, don't you dare plead with me," I snapped. "You've made your choice. You chose Marisol over me." Just then, the door swung open, and in walked Marisol. I had hoped to catch her in the act, and here she was, completely unaware of the storm brewing. "What's going on?" she asked, looking between us, her expression shifting from confusion to realization. "Surprise," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "We were just discussing your little affair with my husband." Marisol's face turned crimson. I didn't know you were here," she stammered, glancing at Elias. "Oh, I'm sure you didn't," I said, crossing my arms. "But now you do. You both think this is a game, don't you? Playing with people's lives like they're just pieces on a board." "Leora, I never meant to hurt you," Marisol said, her voice trembling. "Really? Because it seems like you did a great job at it," I shot back, my voice rising. "You both acted like I didn't exist, like I was just some shadow in your happy little world." Elias stepped forward, desperation in his eyes. "Leora, please listen. It was a mistake. I love you. It's you I want." "Love?" I laughed bitterly. "You call this love? You've broken my trust. You've destroyed my heart." As the confrontation unfolded, I felt a wave of emotions crashing over me. Anger, betrayal, and a surprising twinge of empathy for Marisol. I could see the fear in her eyes, the realization that she too was caught in this web of deceit. "Do you even understand what you've done?" I asked her, my voice softer now. "You've ruined everything." "I didn't want this," she replied, tears glistening in her eyes. "I thought he was single. I thought I could have something real." I glanced at Elias, feeling the weight of our shared history pressing down on me. "You both thought this was a game, but it's not. It's my life." Elias looked at me, his expression filled with remorse. "I'm so sorry, Leora. I never wanted to hurt you." I took a step back, shaking my head. "It's too late for apologies now, Elias." In that moment, I realized that the confrontation had opened a door I hadn't expected. I saw the vulnerability in both their faces, and for a fleeting second, I felt a pang of empathy for Marisol. She was not just a rival. She was a woman caught in the same storm as I was. The room was charged with tension, and I knew I had to make a choice. The trap I had set was working, but the feelings swirling inside me were far more complicated than I had anticipated. As I stood there, the air heavy with tension, I felt a shift within me. The confrontation I had carefully planned was unfolding, but it wasn't going the way I expected. My heart raced as I faced Elias and Marisol, both looking stunned and vulnerable in that moment. I had imagined this moment countless times, but nothing prepared me for the unexpected empathy that began to bloom in my chest. "Leora, I can explain," Elias stammered, his face pale as he glanced between Marisol and me. His usual confidence was nowhere to be found. "No need for explanations, Elias," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "You have already said more than enough through your actions." My gaze shifted to Marisol, who stood there, eyes wide and filled with a mixture of fear and defiance. "What do you want from us?" Marisol asked, her tone defensive yet tinged with a hint of desperation. I could see the mask of the manipulative woman begin to crack, revealing a more human side beneath. I hesitated, feeling a strange connection to her. "I want the truth. I want to know why this happened," I admitted, my anger slowly giving way to something more complex. "Did you ever think about the pain this would cause?" Marisol took a deep breath, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. "I didn't plan for any of this. I thought he loved me," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I thought I could give him something you couldn't." The words hit me like a slap. I realized I had not only been betrayed by Elias, but also by the idea of who I thought Marisol was. "What do you mean?" I asked. My curiosity piqued despite the anger still boiling inside me. Marisol looked down, her shoulders slumping. "I have my own struggles, Leora. I wanted to be someone he admired, someone he desired. I thought I could escape my own life by stepping into yours," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. Hearing her story, a part of me softened. I remembered my own ambitions, my dreams before all this chaos. I had once been a strong woman, full of hope and purpose. Now I felt like I was drowning in my own pain. "But hurting others isn't the answer," I said, my voice firmer. "You didn't have to destroy another person's life to find happiness." Elias shifted uncomfortably, clearly torn between us, but I continued to focus on Marisol. "You deserve to find your own path, not by bringing others down, but by lifting yourself up." Marisol met my gaze, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I never wanted this, Leora. I just wanted to feel loved, to feel important," she admitted. "I see now how foolish I was." A wave of understanding washed over me. I had been so consumed with my desire for revenge that I hadn't considered the pain driving Marisol's choices. "We all want to feel valued, Marisol," I said gently. "But there are healthier ways to seek that. We can't rely on others to define our worth." Elias, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke up. "I'm sorry, Leora. I never meant to hurt you. I was lost. I thought—" He trailed off, unable to finish his sentence. I could see the regret etched on his face. I took a deep breath, the weight of my revenge plan feeling lighter yet heavier at the same time. "I don't want to destroy you both," I found myself saying. "I want to move past this. I want to heal." A shocked silence fell over the room, and I could see the realization dawn on both of them. I was no longer the victim they thought I was. I was reclaiming my power, not through vengeance, but through understanding. "Maybe we can all find a way to move forward," I suggested, my heart racing with the possibility. "Not as enemies, but as people who have learned from this painful experience." As I spoke those words, I felt a clarity wash over me. Revenge had not brought me the satisfaction I had anticipated. Instead, it had opened my eyes to the complexity of human emotions and relationships. I realized that healing lay in letting go, not in destroying others. The confrontation may not have ended as I had envisioned, but perhaps it had led me to something far more valuable: empathy and the strength to move forward. I turned away from them, ready to step into a new chapter of my life, one that held the promise of healing and self-discovery. As I stood there, the weight of my past decisions pressed heavily on my chest. The confrontation with Elias and Marisol had stirred something deep within me. I felt like I was shedding an old skin, one that had been too tight and suffocating. I realized that holding on to my desire for revenge was only keeping me trapped in a cycle of pain. I was ready to let go. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, "It's time to heal." I needed to focus on myself now, on finding who I truly was beyond the hurt and betrayal. The next few days were filled with quiet reflection. I began to explore my interests again, the things that had once brought me joy. I picked up my paintbrushes for the first time in years. The colors danced across the canvas, a vibrant expression of my emotions. Each stroke was a release, a way to channel my anger, sadness, and ultimately, my hope. One evening, as I painted in my sunlit living room, my friend Sophie dropped by for a surprise visit. She leaned against the doorway, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Wow, Leora, this is beautiful. I didn't know you painted." I smiled, a bit shyly. "It's something I used to love. I forgot how much I missed it." Sophie stepped closer to admire the colors. "You should show your work. This is amazing. It's like you're pouring your heart onto the canvas." I hesitated, feeling a bit vulnerable. "I'm not sure if I'm ready for that." "What if they don't like it? Who cares what they think? This is for you. It's about your healing, not their approval." Her words sank in deep. "You're right," I replied, feeling a spark of courage. "I need to embrace this journey for myself." Sophie nodded, her face lighting up. "Exactly. Why not start a little art show, just for friends and family?" A show? The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. "I don't know. Come on. You have to take this leap. It's a way to share your journey and inspire others. Plus, it could be fun." She clapped her hands together, her excitement contagious. After some thought, I agreed. "Okay, let's do it. But I want it to be authentic. I want to tell my story through my art." Over the next few weeks, I poured my heart and soul into my paintings. Each piece told a part of my journey, from betrayal to empowerment. I found strength in vulnerability, and I felt lighter with every brushstroke. The day of the show arrived. I was nervous as I arranged the paintings in my living room, but there was also a flutter of excitement. As my friends and family filtered in, I felt a sense of pride. I was no longer just Leora, the betrayed wife. I was Leora, the artist. "Wow, Leora, this is incredible," my brother exclaimed as he admired one of my paintings. "You've really captured your emotions here." "Thank you," I said, my heart swelling with gratitude. "It means a lot to me that you're here." As the evening went on, I shared my story with those who came. "This painting," I said, pointing to a piece filled with dark blues and vibrant reds, "represents my feelings during the hardest times. I was lost, but I found my way back to myself." People nodded, some with tears in their eyes. I realized that my experience resonated with them. They too had faced their own struggles. In that moment, I felt a surge of connection and understanding. Healing wasn't a solo journey, it was a shared experience. I was not alone. As the night came to a close, I felt a wave of warmth wash over me. I had embraced my past and transformed it into something beautiful. I was ready to embrace my future. "Leora, you are truly amazing," Sophie said, wrapping her arms around me in a tight hug. "You've turned your pain into something powerful." "Thank you for believing in me," I replied, feeling the weight of my past lifting. As I looked around the room filled with laughter, love, and support, I realized that true victory isn't about revenge. It's about finding peace within yourself. I made a silent vow to carry this lesson forward, knowing that my journey of healing was just beginning. Share this story if you believe that healing can emerge from the depths of pain. Leave a comment about a time when unexpected support transformed your life, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one.